We should take a few minutes to compose ourselves and reach a state of mind in which to address the world as. Otherwise, there'll be. You know what it'll be. It'll be like when rock bands argue in public and the press see them. There's rumours on the front pages that they're going to split up the next day. Well, that'll be us. We'll be on the front page of the Sun tomorrow.
I don't think that's...
Firebolt and the Orbiter on the verge of coming to blows.
It'd be good publicity, though.
Should we do something... seeing as we're here to record a podcast, shall we record a podcast?
Shall we introduce? We always have this bit where we just ramble on for a bit and then go... Yeah. Should we actually introduce ourselves?
I'm trying to actually ascertain whether or not...
That always goes before the opener.
Whether or not I'm in the right frame of mind for it yet.
You are now. Okay. Let's do this thing. Hello Internet, I am Firebolt.
Et ego sum the Orbiter.
Right, if you're wondering why he's got all fucking Roman on this shit, today we are actually talking about language.
I think you'll find that particular language isn't called Roman.
Yeah,
Wasn't
but the
called
Romans
Roman.
fucking spoke it, didn't they? You twat.
Why did they call it Latin?
Well, we can look that up because we will be talking quite a bit about etymology today.
Because we've done our research before we started, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I didn't have fucking time whilst you were running around like a lunatic.
Interesting though, you don't speak Latin, do you?
I don't speak it like fluently.
But you knew what I was saying because of the context.
No, I just knew it sounds a bit Latin. Don't know.
What?
It comes.
The language of the ancient Romans. But where does the word Latin come from?
It comes from Latinus and Latium. I'm guessing it was a place.
That'll be what they call their language.
Latium or Latium was a place, I'm assuming then.
Ooh. So, and one of the reasons that I introduced myself in Latin was because it's one of the...
Because languages tend to be named after the place that they come from. Like
right.
French, English.
Yeah. It's kind of a root language for most of Europe, really, isn't it? It's been highly influential in most of the languages of Europe.
Yeah. Greek also has been.
But they use different letters.
Yeah, but meh. I don't know. Fuck it.
Oh,
anyway.
Dr. Pepper.
Right, so... Language. Right, so probably the first most obvious thing. Fuck, shit, cunt, bollocks, whatever. Why do we swear?
Because we can. I don't know, it's...
But also, why are they taboo, then?
What are the roots of slang?
Why if I say fuck, is that different to saying shag?
I don't know, but I do... There was, I think it was Billy Connolly monologue about swearing, which the word fuck is extremely, what do you call it?
I don't know what I'd call it.
Multi-purpose. It can mean lots of different things, depending on the context.
Sorry for our dear listeners.
I was using...
You can't see him... waving his fingers about, looking like he's fondling someone with massive bollocks.
This is
with both hands.
This is body language.
Yeah, but you can't see that, dear listener, because you're a dear listener.
Stop ASMRing your cock.
It's our only running joke.
Language, Timothy. You don't know that one, do you?
No.
There was a program called Sorry with Ronnie Corbett. Back in the something, it was a 40-odd-year-old that lived with his mum, and his mum always used to go, "Language, Timothy."
Right. Okay.
Where were we?
Language.
Randomness.
Anyway, I always find language very interesting.
Do you?
Yeah, because it's how we.
It's a tool.
Function. really, because I mean, I know some animals have methods of communications, but none that I think reach the complexities of humans.
Do you know what interests me is how important it is to have a wide vocabulary, and what happens if there's a concept which you have a word for and it's in your vocabulary, you have a means of understanding that concept. But if you don't have a certain part of the English language in your vocabulary, does that then mean that a part of your understanding of society or the kind of the world is less than somebody who does have that in their vocabulary? Is your knowledge and your intellect, my language is failing me?
Well,
is it limited by your vocabulary?
We're getting a bit deep here early on today.
A specific instance
but
would
then
be
people that are mute still are able to be very intelligent.
Yeah, but not being able to speak doesn't mean that you don't have knowledge of the vocabulary.
Well, a lot of mute people are also deaf, so yeah, it might.
True. But and only if they're not blind might they not know a word.
Well, why would you learn the words if you don't need to speak them or hear them?
So that you can see them. If you're not blind, if you're blind as well, then.
But then you don't need to use a wide vocabulary. You just need to know the words, your concepts.
Yeah, I mean, one of the examples is snow has a lot of different words in other languages, like especially Scandinavian languages. They have a lot more different words for snow than we do.
Yeah, but we have a lot more phrases or words for rain than they do, because it's more common here.
Yeah,
and varying degrees, like a shower.
So I suppose the fact that we might not have a particular
trickle
kind of snow labelled in one word doesn't mean we can't refer to it. It's just more difficult to communicate that.
Yeah. Well, really, it doesn't snow a huge amount in the UK recently. I mean, we could have just snowing a little bit, and it's frosty, and the fucking snowstorm.
I'm sure it was Sanskrit that has 19 different words for love.
Okay.
I think. When I say I'm sure, I'm actually lying.
Yeah.
I think.
If you say I'm sure it's Sanskrit, I think.
Well, there's an example though.
You're
People don't always use language correctly, do they?
No.
There is, and like sarcasm as well. The language that you're using when you use sarcasm, it includes
this is so
not just the. Well, but there you communicated something to me which was not limited by the actual words you were using.
Yeah.
The communication, the language you were using wasn't just the words.
Yeah, so the language is a lot deeper than just the actual language is a lot deeper than the actual words. It's intonation, body language. I mean, our dear listeners can't actually see the body language, but they can probably get it from the tone and your reactions.
And to a certain extent as well, depending on how many episodes they've previously listened to, they might get a certain amount of the meaning of what we're saying from knowing what we're like. I mean, if they know you're a sarcastic bastard, then they're more likely to pick up on that. And if they know that I'm an insulting son of a bitch to my own son, they might not think I'm being quite as cruel as it might first come across.
I want to talk about George Orwell. Because a lot of the time, people will be very willing to just slap Orwellian onto anything remotely authoritarian.
What's that thing?
Or anything even just related to the state.
I know there's the doublethink thing. What's the thing that is something speak?
There's double speak.
It's double speak. Well, there's doublethink.
Yeah, well,
doublethink.
Sort of the freedom is slavery, war is peace, ignorance is strength, that sort of thing. And that's used quite a bit in society, actually.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we have the Ministry of Defence. It's like, they haven't been defending shit for like 70 years, mate. And at that point, it was, I think, still called the Ministry of War.
Which is weird. Because at that point, it was probably... Well, it wasn't... There was more defence in it, but... Well, defence is like... I mean, there's that thing about attack being the...
Blowing up some random brown guy in a hut isn't defending the country. You cunts.
No, but there is a well-known kind of... attack being the most effective form of defence is a well-used phrase, isn't it?
Except it's nothing like those words that you just used.
No. My mind's failing me this evening.
It's the best defence is a good offence.
That's the one, thank you.
I always get them mixed up. The best offence is a good defence, but that's not really the case.
I've got a feeling that that's used in football.
Yeah, because sports have offences and defences quite a bit, so... Anyway, we kind of moved on from the swearing.
I've just realised we're actually in the middle of the podcast now. I wasn't kind of prepared for it. It started before I was expecting it to, and we're just having a chat, and now I've just suddenly thought, oh yeah, we're actually doing this now.
We completely skipped over any follow-up.
Oh yeah,
just dive straight into it.
Actually, there was some as well, but now I've got to remember what it was.
So helpful. This is why I told you to get notes and stuff.
I did bookmark it on my phone browser when I came across it. Yeah, that was it. It was the net neutrality thing. There was an article on. It was in the Google News app thingy, I think. But it was basically about that the Verizon, which is one of the ISPs in America. There's been a lot of wildfires and that around southeast, west coast, California area.
Yeah, California wildfires.
Verizon have been throttling the bandwidth. Verizon then have been throttling the bandwidth.
Horizon, is it?
Have been throttling the fucking bandwidth of the firefighters that are out fighting the fires, and basically their response when the firefighters were like, because they were getting like a 200th of the speed that was the max for their connection, if you like, and Verizon's response when they asked for it to be opened up was that they would need to upgrade the plan they're on. They weren't paying for the full bandwidth. So
right.
So the net neutrality thing we were talking about before it's in play now.
Yeah, I mean, people are still fighting to get that
repealed.
Yeah,
that's really annoying me now. The game bar thing.
Well, then don't have it on.
Okay.
No, not
I'm
now.
Just turning it
don't
off.
Fucking do it now. You can't. We're in the middle of a recording. You can do that later when you've actually got fucking time.
It's
fuck you.
Ridiculously unprofessional
fuck
today.
You. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Is that the limit of your language vocabulary type thing?
No, it's just the best, most effective way to convey a strong message of saying fuck you. Yeah, fucking cunt.
Yeah, I'll put a link up to that actually, the Billy Connolly sketch about the word fuck. And how it can't be replaced. But I mean, some people say that using swearing a lot is a sign of a limited vocabulary, and I'm in his camp. But it's not actually. It's just that it's not replaceable by any other words. It's like,
well, actually,
in some circumstances.
the fact that people that it is taboo really gives it that edge to say that you really mean something. I mean, we like Scots use cunt all the time. If you go over to America and you said cunt, like people would look at you like you said the N-word.
Yeah.
But over here, like people use cunt as an endearing term sometimes. Like, oh, he's a good cunt.
I've not heard that myself, but
people do use that term.
Yeah. I've heard it used. I've heard it used as a
sweary
kind of maybe a compliment in terms of somebody being ruthless. Like he can be a right cunt if he needs to be. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is not necessarily a compliment, but in some circumstances it would be like it would be. But I wonder whether in America it has more connotations towards the, you know, the actual literal meaning of it than we tend to think of here. Here it tends to be used as an insult more like towards someone rather than referring to the female genitals.
That's actually interesting though, because this is slight of a weird segue, but when I said about people would look at you like you said the N-word, with the N-word, a lot of the time, like I'm saying N-word,
yeah,
people know what I mean when I say that. It means the same thing as nigger. I'm going to say that now because it's in context, and context actually matters, contrary to some people's weird thoughts.
Well, I suppose that's a subject that you're probably more careful around than a lot of other subjects, because there is it would be easy to be accused of. I mean, if I go around calling people gay all the time, it would be easy for people to label me as homophobic.
Yeah, I think faggot also has a similar...
it's actually a bundle of sticks, that. But anyway.
Well, in the UK it tends to mean cigarettes, like a fag.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a faggot, though.
No, we wouldn't go...
Fag.
Have you got a packet of faggots?
Well, you might have done in the olden days, because they were something you could eat as well, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you could eat tobacco in your...
Well, this is one of the interesting things, and language is an organic fluid thing, isn't it? It doesn't...
Writers make up words all the time, and they eventually get used. Like flummoxed is one of my favourite words.
I can't remember what it was on. It was a Radio 4 interview, but there was a linguistics professor on, and they were talking about...
Probably Infinite Monkey Cage.
No, I don't think it was. But anyway, they were talking about well-used errors in the English language, and there's a famous one which is apparently it's never actually officially been, it's not written down anywhere that it's an incorrect use of grammar, but it's widely accepted that it is the most famous incorrect use of grammar, which is the split infinitive. And it's not actually, technically, it's not stated anywhere that you can't split the infinitive. But
to boldly go.
Yeah. It's often cited as one of the most famous incorrect uses of the English language, but nowhere does it actually say that that's an incorrect usage. And this English professor, this linguistics professor, was actually saying, well, it's not wrong because it's widely used, and that's the function of language. It's to communicate, and there are differences between written and verbal language. There's a thing called code switching. Have you heard of code switching? So there's lots of different forms of English. And in some of the...
but then
Cajun English, that's it. Cajun English, which is used, I think, quite a lot in some of the... is it the Caribbean communities? Like, there's lots of different. There's like Jamaican English, but they all use elements of English, but they're very different from each other. But some of them use something called code switching, which means that they might be talking in their local kind of dialect, if you like, of English, like Jamaican English or Cajun English or whatever. But if they want to put emphasis on something, they would go back to the formal form, like Queen's English, if you like, just for a few words, even within a sentence, and then change back. Like if they were maybe telling off their child for something, they would switch to proper English, if you like, just for a few words, and then switch back to their local dialect, just to give it emphasis.
Right. But on the note of context with language, the N-word, nigger, I'm going to say it, actually, rather than saying N-word, because it just feels a bit weird having sort of forbidden words. Although there is a history behind that, a very nasty history. Yeah. There are histories behind other words as well. But particularly with a relatively recent case, actually, to be honest, I think it happened like 2 years ago. The actual incident and the trial was this year. Do you remember there was a Scottish bloke that taught his dog to raise its paw in a Hitler salute after he said the phrase "gas the Jews"?
No, I don't remember that. I never saw that.
Oh, I did.
Oh, right. And what about it?
Well, it's the only case, I think, that someone's been arrested for hate speech online.
Okay.
Specifically for online hate speech.
What, did they do like a video of it or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And in that, the judge said context didn't matter.
Right.
But him simply saying that phrase was justification enough to fine him. I think it was 800 quid.
Okay. So, I mean, if you said, for instance...
but like, I just said that phrase.
Yeah.
So, does that apply to me now? And there were reporters outside saying...
Well, according to that judge, no, because the context is irrelevant.
Yeah. There were reporters outside saying, do you think gas the Jews is an appropriate phrase? And he said, context matters. But it's not an appropriate phrase. Well, you just said that, so context matters. So
yeah, that's a good point.
But I think it got quite a bit of... it got a bit more complicated with that, because I think Tommy Robinson... Do you know who Tommy Robinson is?
Yes, I do.
And
they're actually talking about letting him join UKIP as a representative at the moment. UKIP are deciding whether or not to allow him in as a member.
I mean, they would happily have anyone as their leader now. It changes every week.
I don't think they're considering him as a leader, but...
No, he'll get there in like a week or so.
Yeah,
they change it so fucking often.
Just when it's humour and sarcasm, beware. Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I'll come fucking jury duty.
Oh, that's an interesting one, though. Saudi Arabia, I think it is, have officially made all forms of online satire. Of online... Is it political or religious satire?
No, it's just online satire.
Online satire.
As they've made that illegal, so...
It's like...
And I think...
So, technically, if somebody views our channel in Saudi Arabia, are they breaking the law?
Well, they're not satirising anything. We're not technically satirising anything, are we?
No, but we'd probably be guilty of blasphemy if we were in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, we could be... I think it's hanging in Saudi Arabia. There's the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. One of them shoots people, one of them hangs people.
Well, we should... I mean, it's obviously not an issue just now, but if we ever decided we wanted to go there, we should look into whether or not we could be arrested.
I wouldn't want to go there.
No.
I would not support going there. I felt uneasy going to Turkey.
Yeah, but I know that there's been a thing where people have been arrested on arrival because they've had a drink on the flight on the way there, and they're carrying alcohol in their bloodstream when they arrive as a result. So they've been arrested and jailed for...
Why do we even fucking...
I don't know.
Why does the West even put up with fucking Saudi Arabia's bullshit?
Because they make a lot of money out of them.
Yeah, just... It's so fucking obvious. It's like, we sell weapons to the people that actually create these crises, and then get angry at the people themselves coming over from the situation that we ourselves get.
So who is it that's making?
Created.
Who is it that's making the money from the weapons sales? Are they private companies, the weapons manufacturers?
Well, no, we sell weapons too.
We do. The British do.
Yeah.
But is that the British government or British companies, private companies?
Well, some of the money comes to us through like taxes, I would assume.
Yeah. So it's a British Industries thing, but I'm assuming that we as a country don't like. I'm assuming the state doesn't manufacture weaponry.
The state does manufacture some weaponry
and sell it directly, or is it?
Well, it owns weaponry and then sells it off because we have the facilities over here to make those weapons.
Yeah,
a lot faster.
But are they government? Are they government-run and government-owned facilities? Or,
I'm not entirely sure.
Or does the government pay companies to build weapons for them?
Well, I'd imagine they'd have to pay something.
Like our own kind of Stark Industries kind of thing.
Yeah. I've been trying to do a sort of binge watch of Marvel movies, but haven't been able to really find The Incredible Hulk anywhere accessible.
Yeah, good point. I was going to say about companies making political donations.
Yeah,
I mean, it gets quite complicated.
The arms industry does that quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, you get that a lot with the NRA in America as well, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, they probably sell things as well. If they're so heavily for it, they'd clearly get a lot of money from gun companies, which then sell that on to.
So clearly, if you own a company that makes a lot of money from selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, and you are based in Britain, and you make contributions to the British ruling party, you're not going to be happy if they start pissing the Saudi Arabians off.
Yeah. But also, I just why even fucking make weapons? It's shit.
Ministry of Defence, remember?
Yeah. Just Ministry of Defence. Just keep them so busy fighting each other that we're just going to be the only ones left standing.
But in the war, did we?
That's pretty much Switzerland's model.
We had factories where there were, because there weren't, a lot of the men were away fighting in the war, weren't they? Is this the Second World War I'm thinking of? But they had women making the shells.
Fighting in both world wars.
Yeah, but they had women in factories making shells here.
That happened in both world wars as well.
So I'm assuming that at those times they were probably government run.
They put like the
weapons factories.
Yeah, they enacted, I think it's DORA, Defence of the Realm Act, so that they could take ownership of factories, the government could take ownership of factories and then make weapons there.
This is really interesting, but what's it got to do with language?
We began an online satire.
Oh, yeah.
In Saudi Arabia, and also then on to blasphemy. Also interesting with blasphemy laws, which is they still exist in a worrying amount of countries. A lot of places still have libel laws based on blasphemy. In Germany, you can be put in prison for breaking those libel laws in certain circumstances. I'm not entirely sure the specifics of it, but it's in a way that disturbs the peace.
Yeah. Yeah, what does that mean, disturbing the peace?
Exactly.
I mean, basically, you're doing something that pisses a few people off then. If you're disturbing the peace, you kind of...
I suppose with language does come a lot into the freedom of speech thing, because it literally just speech in general. I find it interesting how other nationalities tend to pick up languages a lot easier. Just non-English people in general tend to pick up languages a lot easier. Well, because they really need to, I think.
But they get... most countries get taught English in schools to a much higher level. No, I don't. To a much higher level.
He's tying up his luscious locks. Fucking Rapunzel.
But there is I read something about learning a language being more difficult the older you get, and obviously they learn English as a very strong second language in a lot of countries, and French in some places as well.
We tend, if you go somewhere abroad, you tend to expect people to speak English.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is a bit arrogant, but
we'd probably be a little bit more tolerant of people, I guess, but we'd still not find it that easy to deal with it when people aren't able to, because it's having that communication barrier is quite difficult sometimes. But a lot of the places that Brits go anyway are like big tourist destinations, so
yeah, where they kind of rely on the money that you're bringing in,
so they're bound to speak English. Flaming Boy just said, my 6-year-old cousin knows 4 languages already. I struggle with 2.
Remind me, were you the Canadian? Was this the Canadian?
Yeah. I'm guessing that's French.
So there'll be French and English.
Yeah.
Be interested to know what the other 2 are.
I don't know, maybe.
Sure, we will find out.
Spanish, maybe. German, I don't know.
There's an interesting thing we mentioned earlier on about how body language and intonation are two very probably underestimated aspects of speaking, like communicating verbally. But they are 2 aspects which are very much removed when
Spanish and Italian is.
Cool. Very much removed when you converse online.
Yeah.
Like, with the whole trolling thing that we've had some
it's like,
experience with.
I could ironically say gay as a joke because it's so freaking stupid that it seemed to be obvious that it's ironic, but only really if you know me. If just someone came across this and I said that without actually explaining the context of that.
Well, there's an example of something that's changed drastically in the last few decades, the meaning of the word gay.
Oh, yeah. It is interesting. I mean, you wouldn't exactly say hijack, but sort of taken the word gay, which used to mean just happy.
They've made it their own, which in a way is what they've also N-word has also done. But it's almost like we've made that word our own, but you're not allowed to use it now.
Yeah, because it's sort of like
when we use it, it's us taking ownership of that word and using it so that you can't use it to put us down. Whereas with gay, it really does depend on the context, because you can call someone gay or you can address them as gay without it being meant as an insult. But
well, if you're specifically pointing it out without the context of saying, oh, they're actually gay, or I heard this person's gay, whatever, I don't know why you'd say, I heard this person's gay, but within that context of just saying, oh, wait, they are actually gay, rather than just saying, oh, well, you are gay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Context.
Like, just mentioning it out of the blue, despite the fact that it's not really any of your business.
Yeah, it does seem a little strange to kind of make it...
Pointing it out for other people that are gay, because, like...
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't really think gaydar is a law of physics.
No. But if you announce your sexuality, you're kind of announcing its relevance in a given situation, because it's like, why would you tell people unless it was relevant at that time? In other words, if you announce that you're gay, then you're kind of announcing that the fact that you're gay is something you want people to know right now for some reason.
Well, a lot of the time people make stupid jokes, and if those jokes are particularly offensive to that group, then you should perhaps go, oh, just I am actually gay, so just please don't make those sorts of jokes around me. I sometimes have to do that quite a lot with autism because in the first place, I don't really think those jokes are that funny. It might just be that I don't really find it funny from that point. I can laugh at those jokes. It's just often they don't really, just the fact that it's being said at all is meant to be the humorous part rather than any actual context around it. But sort of playing with the...
There's a lot of grey area nowadays.
The only times I've found those sorts of jokes funny is when they do the play on words with artistic and autistic.
Yeah. Plus, I do... I've heard people using the phrase "on the spectrum" in different ways. You know, sometimes it's meant as...
Sometimes it's meant as a sort of a caution, just to just be aware.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly think that it can be used as a compliment in a way, because it does imply certain... What are you looking at?
The camera.
Why?
The thing that's actually recording us.
Oh, hi.
Because eye contact in an audience tends to mean, shit. That's interesting, eye contact, language.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they can see your eyes, but you can't see theirs.
Unless I can. I'm staring into your soul right now.
Well,
apart from our dear listeners, because they don't have souls.
We're
eyes.
We're looking at an artificial technology in the eye, quite literally.
Right. Cool.
I've got no idea where this is going.
Neither do I. It's interesting because we were talking a bit earlier about how language isn't only really the value of the actual words being said.
Sorry, just laughing at the emoticon.
Emoji.
Emoji.
They're generally called emojis.
They've got lots of different names. Stop trying to make out I'm dated and old.
They'll be called emos soon. And then they'll just be ease.
And then they'll commit suicide. Sorry, they won't. I didn't say that. They'll kill themselves off.
And then they'll just become ease. And then you'll think that everyone's taking ecstasy.
What the hell's going on now?
That's weird. Emojium.
What?
Isn't emojium a drug? A drug?
Emojium?
Yeah.
I've not heard of
Imodium.
That. Imodium, yeah. Is that not... isn't it a laxative or something?
I don't know. I don't take laxatives that often. I've never taken a laxative.
Emoji.
I've never needed to.
How to treat diarrhea. It's a diarrhea medicine.
I thought it was Emodium. I swear Emodium's a thing.
Your language skills.
Well, why would I need to know?
Emojium.
Emolium. Emojium. There we go. No.
There's a website called emojium.com.
It might just be... I think it's like...
That's fascinating.
It's just a black...
No, it's not. It's blue.
It's black.
It's blue.
It is black.
That's fucking blue.
That is... It's...
Blue.
Very dark blue. I mean, I think it's
blue.
It's just a reflection that you're seeing there.
Of what? The curtain's black behind us.
Yes, but the light makes it... Light being on the screen makes it go...
This is fascinating podcast material.
If we turned all the lights off, that would be black. Yeah, Imodium. Fine. Well, now no one can fucking see us.
Yeah, but is it blue?
This is... Fine, it is. Fuck you. That was a very wasted segment.
I enjoyed it. Anyway, language is very important because...
Because we just searched up Imodium, Google's going to think that you are constipated. And then
it's a diarrhea treatment. They're going to try to bung me up.
No, it's...
Diarrhea is not constipation, it's the opposite.
It's a laxative.
It said it was for treating diarrhea.
No, it's to give you diarrhea. I don't know.
Why are we doing this? He says it's a laxative. Need help. It's a medicine to treat diarrhea.
Okay.
So it's the opposite of a laxative.
But now Google's gonna think that you need you have diarrhea.
Great. Well, can't be any worse than what Google already thinks of me anyway.
Oh god. Just got an insight into your search history.
No, you made an assumption there.
It was heavily implied.
Well, that brings me on to the point I was going to make about language being an important communication tool, especially between people of different cultures who have different languages, who may be potentially warring opponents, such as, you can understand how it might be wise to avoid misunderstandings between, say, Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming Donald Trump doesn't speak any North Korean. Is North Korean a separate language to South Korean?
No, Korean's one language, but the North Korean dialect's very different to South Korean because they've been very isolated.
So I'm assuming
it's basically like if where we live became an island and we weren't able to move off of it for 100 years.
Yeah.
More like 50 years.
Sorry, I can't give a straight face because adult diaper ads incoming.
Right.
Incoming!
Splash.
Oh, no. Right, back on track. Yeah, so
North
you could
Korea.
literally have... Well, I'm sure there have been wars started because of misunderstandings.
There's actually...
Language misunderstandings.
The official North Korean...
Words.
They sort of pretend that the Kim Jongs, that's the family, are immortal, but also there's a few other things that they say, our great leader is this thing. That one of the things is that they say that they can't poo. They don't poo.
They can't?
They don't poo.
Maybe they need Imodium.
No, it's the antidote. It's the...
What's the opposite of Imodium, then?
A laxative.
Don't start looking up laxatives, because...
Laxatives for North Korea. Hashtag laxatives for North Korea.
Let's start a new charity.
Yeah, because that's what North Koreans really need.
We're going to start a Kickstarter campaign to ship in laxatives to Kim Jong-un.
What the fuck?
Well,
how did we get to this from language?
It's the last thing you want when you're having an important meeting with Donald Trump. Sorry.
Maybe that's why his trousers are so baggy.
Whose?
Kim Jong-un's.
Are they?
Have you never seen them?
What, Kim Jong-un's trousers?
Not King Jong-un.
I feel like that should be the title of this podcast. Kim Jong-un's trousers.
Why would it be, considering for the most part we're meant to be talking about fucking...
Well, technically, whatever we say in this podcast is relevant because we're using language to say it.
That was bullshit. It's like the social media thing.
What is?
The fact that we're broadcasting this on...
What the fuck is that?
Somebody with his face on a jumper.
Yeah, this is fascinating for the podcast audience.
I'm going to get a full shot of it. That's probably the closest. You see, they're really baggy at the legs.
Maybe he likes a bit of ventilation up the trouser.
Yeah. Sure, whatever.
I feel like we should move on.
Yeah, perhaps.
1980s businessmen.
Right.
I wonder if he's got a filofax. Do you know what a filofax is?
I mean, he says he has an invisible telephone that he invented himself.
Does he really?
And he said that he called in to change the result of the 2014 World Cup.
Who said this? When? Kim Jong-un said this?
Yeah, and North Korean media.
Oh. I just said something and I've forgotten what it was.
Right.
Trouser ventilation. phone. Oh, I can't remember now. You derailed me. I can't rewind. Language. Yeah, this is one of those pauses.
Etymology.
Pause for thought.
Etymology. I quite like that. With every word, there's just so much more depth behind it than is at face value.
Do you?
Yeah, because
Give us an example.
I mean, country names. You got. I mean, most of the things with the suffix land is basically just like England, Angleland.
Yeah.
But then you go into what angle actually breaks down to, not angle as in angles of a triangle, whatever. But angle as in the people.
Yeah, I was just thinking of something that I thought was a ridiculous thing but quite amusing, but now the more I think about it, the more it does seem actually relevant, is it being a bit of an oxymoron, the idea of the United Kingdom.
Right.
Well, not an oxymoron, but it's a bit ironic. Apart from anything else, it's not that united at the moment, and also it's not a kingdom because we have a queen, not a king.
Yeah, but nothing's ever really been called a queendom.
But that would be a patriarchal kind of thing, wouldn't it?
I think the only time things have been called queendoms are...
gay clubs?
Yeah. I was trying to find a word for it.
Filofax. Yeah, have you heard of a that was it?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a filofax?
Yeah.
Do you know what a filofax is?
It's sort of like you'd send like papers in it and they'd come out.
No, that's a fax machine. A filofax was an 80s businessman thing.
Right. Talk away.
Filofax. It's... Basically, it was... it's like a fancy kind of diary thing, but it's got lots of sections in it. It's just a folder that you put loads of sheets of different sheets of paper in it. It's like a posh diary thing, but yeah, 80s businessmen had it was quite popular back then. You get you can probably still buy them in Boots.
Yeah, they're not that uncommon.
No, but they weren't around before the 80s. Is my point. They were.
Yeah, but
I don't know why it came up.
Neither was MTV, so
1980s businessmen. That was why it came up.
MTV came around in the 80s.
Yeah, I wonder if Kim Jong-un has a filofax. That's what I said. Because he dresses like a 1980s businessman. That's the context in which it came up.
I don't know, do I? Because I'm not fucking...
Well, you seem to know what size trousers he wears.
Well, I can fucking look at a photo and go, yeah, that looks pretty wide around the leg.
How do I know you haven't seen a photo of Kim Jong-un sporting a filofax?
You can see images of him, and you haven't seen him sporting a filofax, but you've seen the trousers.
You're waving your arms around like a windmill.
Fuck off.
We were talking about the...
We're talking about etymology, and we're having a lovely highbrow conversation. We went, ooh, filofax. Ooh. Ooh, I'm just going to go off on the 80s.
I'm allowed to. Go on then, carry on with your etymology rant.
Anyway, you really fucking interrupted me.
I never do that.
It's if we go into the actual etymology, also etymologies of individual names, I should look.
It's got a Y in it as well.
What?
It's got 2 Y's in it. Etymology. ETYM.
Fine, shut up.
You're so abusive to me.
No, I mean people.
Anglo-Saxons? Angles.
No, that's angel.
When the Angles, because I've heard of Anglo-Saxons, so I've heard of the Saxons and I've heard of the Angles, but were the Angles? They were from. I don't know why, but I'm thinking kind of King Arthur and Camelot and down that way with.
What?
The Angles.
No,
where did they come from? Because they mixed with the Saxons, didn't they? And England became Anglo-Saxon.
Well, they came over from fucking France, and from other parts of Europe that went up into Britain whilst
Yeah.
there was still ice there.
But there must have
Or
been...
just whilst there were boats to go there.
Mm.
But they're just English people.
Anyway, what were you saying about them?
Like, Angle's one of the annoying ones to look up, but I don't know, like Uzbeki, like Uzbekistan.
What about it?
Uzbek. No, that's very helpful. Uzbek means Uzbek in the Uzbek language. The etymology remains disputed. Oh, that's fun. Named after Oghuz Kagan.
Can I just ask a question that makes me seem extremely ignorant? But I hopefully will. Somebody in the audience will also be thinking. What does the word etymology actually mean?
The study of names.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Why do you think it's always the names behind things?
I thought it was about the roots of language, but... Origins of... Somebody else has said origins of names.
Etymology. Oh, now I have to look up etymology.
Well, an etymology dictionary has sources of...
Study of the origin of words and then which their meanings have changed throughout history.
Yeah.
And the way in which they're...
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. I suppose... Yeah.
But that brings me on to a brilliant channel. Name Explain.
What?
Name Explain.
What about it? What's that? Oh, a channel?
Yeah, YouTube channel.
Okay.
And they just look at the etymologies behind things.
Ah.
I think I've seen other channels do that as a sort of thing, but
North Germany.
It seems to be a relatively exclusive thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're interested in, so they talk about that.
I see.
So when there's only really one person doing something, you see that the channel actually tends to... People can get interested, just people that are interested in one sort of thing will all go to that channel on YouTube. Or just go, oh, I wonder what the meaning behind this is. Oh wait, here's a perfect video explaining that.
Mm.
Like, have you ever wondered why Turkey is the name for an animal and also the name for a country?
I hadn't.
Because turkeys were from around Middle East area, so they'd all have to come through Turkey, and that's where Europeans would get all their turkeys from. So they ended up just calling that place Turkey.
Ah.
Also, why Austria is so similar.
So why don't we call New Zealand sheep?
Because that came...
Or Denmark pig.
Right, because that... that comes... There's other things that we know...
That come from there. We get other stuff from there besides pigs.
Yeah, but also there's other context that, like, Turkey we didn't really have much interaction with whilst that was being sort of the common name for it.
So there was a time when the only use for turkey was to get turkey from, basically, to us.
It's like, it comes from that sort of direction. People get it from that sort of way.
Yeah.
Let's just call that place Turkey. And people just sort of forgot that that's actually the thing with its own people and things to do things. But now it's just sort of generally called Turkey because that's how language evolves.
Have you ever watched In a Nutshell on YouTube?
Yes, that's Kurz Gesagt.
Oh, right, okay. You've mentioned him quite a lot.
Well, it's a team, not him.
Oh, right, is it? Okay.
The narrator is a man.
Yeah. Cool.
But yes, I have.
That's
They tend to
interesting.
talk about
what I'd
more
mentioned
sciencey
about
things.
Angles and Anglo-Saxons. One of our chatters is saying the Angles come from North Germany.
Yeah.
And I think what I was trying to kind of work out, obviously there's lots of different influences, lots of different people came to the British Isles, if you like. The Saxons, the Angles, the Romans at one point as well, the French, around 1066 they came in, conquered and stuff. But were there indigenous people in Britain that had their own language before the Angles and the Saxons turned up?
Yeah, but to what extent do you mean indigenous?
Well, I mean, I suppose that if you go back far enough, we were still joined onto the European mainland at one point. But
although recently they thought that they found evidence. I don't know what the conclusion on this was. They thought that they found evidence that, because the sort of normal thing is that we all started off in Africa.
yeah,
But there's now some evidence to suggest that we had other starting points in other continents.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and it's probably not really related to that, but one thing that it kind of is, the geographical movement of peoples and the spread of language as a result. Do you think that the globalization that's been brought about by the internet will eventually lead to a single global language?
That's interesting because I go to a debating club at my school because I'm such a cool guy. Fucking Mr. Popular.
Well, you're not the only one that's there, so
No,
you kind of it's like sitting there arguing with yourself.
Pretty nerdy. I mean, there have been some times where I've been sitting there mostly by myself and just with the teacher there, but whatever. It's now a little bit more popular.
Did this particular teacher tell you it was a debating club before you came along? Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
If they watch this,
So what were you saying? Yeah, the debating club.
And one of the debates, it was a debate that they were going to have. There were other older people that were going to do it. I think the topic got changed at some point to something completely different. But a debate was, should there be one language, one world language? And I think it was more. I think more the debate was, should we protect languages from going extinct?
Well, that's an interesting one because it's. I mean, the French are very much into protecting their language from being eroded by other languages, aren't they? I do know a few months ago there was a thing about there was a law that was passed where they couldn't use the word for sausage, which I can't remember what that is in French, but they couldn't use that word to denote a vegetarian product.
Right.
It had to have meat in it, and it couldn't be called a sausage if it didn't have meat in it. Is it saucisson? Can't remember. I'm not French, so I apologise for my accent there. The word would be pretty boring. Yeah, the world would be pretty boring if it were all the same. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't suppose I'd be talking about a world where everyone spoke the same, because you kind of, I mean, even within the UK,
eventually
you've got local dialects.
Would it evolve to that eventually? Over time, with languages just dying out eventually, leave us with one.
There's always going to be regional variations, isn't there?
Yeah.
But we already have...
I mean, you get that between... I mean, I think the UK is probably one place where the dialects are so distinct between cities.
But we have a very cosmopolitan language, don't we? You know, we use lots of different... You know, restaurants and cafeteria are both French words. There's lots of words that the French use as well that are actually English words.
I would say that the UK probably has the most variation in accents depending on which area you're from, relative to its size. Because you'll probably get more accents in America, but
it's a lot bigger.
Yeah. Because a Cornish accent will be very different from a Brummie accent.
And it's quite interesting as well that somebody people can often tell where somebody's from. I mean, I probably know people who could tell you, who could tell if somebody was from Inch as opposed to Inverurie, or Mintlaw, or, you know, basically the dialects are ever so slightly different from place to place within.
I think in Scotland it tends to vary more with the strength of the Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Glasgow tends to have the thicker accents.
Yeah.
Although up here you get quite a few thick accents, to the point where, like, I've lived here all my life and I can't understand some people up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what somebody's pointed out about Quebec having laws enforcing businesses to print signs in French. Presumably they have to be in English as well. I don't know, but I know round here, I don't know if it's law, but there are certain areas where the signs have to be in. I don't think it's Gaelic. Doric. Yeah, Gaelic and
Doric's more the dialect, I think.
That's more sort of northeast, isn't it?
Gaelic's
certainly over towards Inverness.
Practically a different language, I think.
Yeah. But actually, even in Aberdeen, the signs at the train stations and stuff like that are in Gaelic as well as English.
I think.
But I don't know if that's law.
In Scotland, Edinburgh's probably got the least strong Scottish accent because it's quite a multicultural city. But they'll tend to have.
Do you have a favourite accent, local accent, or not dialect, but in the UK? Do you have a favourite sort of local? Do you know what I mean? An accent that you like?
I find that the West Country accent is the funniest thing.
The funniest. I'm actually from Yorkshire originally, but I don't really like.
I can't even fucking do it.
I don't really like the Yorkshire accent, but it does make me feel. It does remind me of my sort of birth county, if you like. Yeah. In terms of what I actually like listening to, I quite enjoy Scouse. Scouse, sort of Liverpudlian area.
I don't really.
And Newcastle as well.
I can't seem to tell the difference that much between Scouse and Brummie.
Really?
I don't. What's the Scouse accent? Can you? Can you attempt it?
Hey! Alright, calm down.
That. What's that? What's the difference between that and Mancunian?
There are similarities, but there's a lot of rivalry. They are quite different, but there are some similarities as well.
But I wouldn't be able to tell if someone was a Scouser.
I would say Mancunian's probably a cross between Scouse and Yorkshire.
I mean, it's literally between them, so
which is interesting in itself. I really don't like the dialect round where I grew up, which was kind of Northamptonshire area. It really annoys me. It's really kind of countrified. It's like it's all Midducks, and it really annoys me when somebody calls you Midduck. It's like, I'm not a fucking duck.
Can you try it?
No, I can't.
Come on, try. No. Can you at least attempt it?
No, they say Kent, and instead of can't.
Kent.
Yeah, instead of can't. They say, I can't do that.
They mention the name Kent. How dare they?
And for county names as well, it's Yorkshire and Northamptonshire rather than Shire or Shire. It's Shire.
I don't really mind that.
No, it just annoys me because there's a lot of people around there that annoy me, so it kind of reminds me of them.
People from my past.
Yeah, I don't think Scouse and Birmingham sound similar, but
maybe it's Geordie and Brummie then.
No, it might be. I think there's a lot of similarities between.
I think Geordie sounds a bit like.
Geordies and Scousers would probably be very insulted if you told them that.
I think Brummie's just. The difference there is that they always sound depressed.
Yeah, but there's probably a good reason for that.
They live in Birmingham.
Way to isolate communities. And
I mean, I think Britain's the only place that I think there's been a book that came out about shit towns, and people demanded a sequel.
Yeah.
Because people aren't generally very proud of where they come from in the UK.
I'm feeling like...
There's a few patriotic people, particularly the Welsh.
I'm not specifically wanting to wind things up that soon. I just wanted to check whether or not there's anything you specifically wanted to talk about. I know you brought up etymology that you're interested in. Is there anything else on the subject of language? Because
I'm interested in town names.
Town names?
Well, like the suffix Chester in towns. Like Dorchester, like Dorchester, Manchester.
Yeah. Yeah, oh right, yeah.
It comes from, I think it's Latin, but
for what?
For camp, when
right.
the Romans came over.
Okay.
I imagine that's where they set up camp.
Mm.
So Manchester literally means man camp.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I imagine man means something slightly different, but that's perhaps tied into...
Well, we got somebody from Northampton in. I'm presuming they don't know me, otherwise they would have already said. My brother lives there.
I'm guessing that's sort of tied into the Isle of Man, because that's quite nearby.
The Isle of Man's near Manchester?
Yeah?
No.
Yeah, it is.
Well, depends what you mean by near. I mean, it's kind of it's in the Irish Sea, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's near Manchester.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Yeah, I suppose it's...
It wouldn't be that far from Manchester to get to the Isle of Man.
No, I suppose. I can see what you mean.
But it's probably less than an hour's flight to Dublin.
Okay, so where does the word man come from? Roots. Let's look up the etymological origins of the word man.
Also, before we end the podcast, I would like to look up the etymologies of our own names.
All right, okay. I think I kind of know.
Well, yours is biblical, isn't it? Paul tends to come biblically.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting how in different cultures the same biblical names change, because obviously your name isn't Hebrew. It's the Hebrew version. But there'll be variations on the same name. Like John will be Juan in Spanish countries.
Well, actually, my name, I don't know.
Spanish influenced countries.
I don't know how it actually happened, but I know that the typical... where my name comes from biblically, it wasn't the guy's original name, Paul. His original name was Saul, but then he had an epileptic fit on the road to Damascus and claimed that he'd been visited by God. Well, he supposedly had a vision from God, and renamed himself to Paul at that point, because until then he'd been like killing Christians for the Romans.
Hang on. You set me off on this. I mean, it's probably going to be fairly...
Man. A Proto-Indo-European root, man. The Slavic forms are derived from... What?
Manu. I think it was someone that was sort of...
In Hindu mythology, Manu is the name of the traditional progenitor of humankind who survives a deluge and gives mankind laws.
Basically Adam.
But it's interesting, I mean, in a patriarchal society, that mankind is... the language is very male...
The figure Manus, but reported by the Roman historian Tacitus, and that's been interpreted as first man. So Manus turned into that.
Interesting.
And that's just a fairly simple word. So there's so much depth to language.
So if anybody's interested in...
the guy from Northampton's just gone off on that.
Sorry, me duck. I'm trying to think of some of the other quirks of the area.
But the name of the etymology of my actual name is slightly more interesting than just Theo, because Theo comes from God, like literally God.
Yeah, I suppose theology and theocratic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Theo gets its root from God.
Yeah,
The
it's
name
it's
Theo.
Dio, isn't it? Deo. But that's the Latin. Theo, is that the Greek? Is it?
I don't know. Let's go Theo etymology. I doubt you'll find etymology for Firebolt, but
Yeah, Greek.
Theos.
Yeah, I know Deos or Deo was the Latin.
But my actual name's Theoden, named after King Theoden of Roden. Well, more accurately, Theoden.
But related to the old
from
Norse
Lord of the
word,
Rings.
meaning leader of the people.
Yes. And the reason that it's an Old Norse word is that Tolkien was actually very interested in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And leader of the people, that kind of makes sense for a king.
Kind of does, yeah.
I'll quickly look up your name's actual etymology.
Maybe we should look up our middle name's etymology as well.
Yeah, that might be more interesting. Origin and
Yeah, I knew that.
meaning small or humble.
The Latin adjective, small or humble. I've seen myself referred to as the little one. Small or humble. So you're a king. You're a leader of the people, and I'm small and humble.
For our dear listeners, I just patted the Orc on the head.
Not for the first time either, from what I remember.
What?
You've done that before. You're a condescending leader of the people.
Well, it's a fun juxtaposition for a father to be belittled by the
before
son.
we move on to our middle names etymology, I'm interested in Flaming Boys says their name is pretty Scottish. I would like to be interested to know what their name
Well,
is.
no, because then that means that they're announcing their name to the podcast audience.
Yeah, but a first name is not going to identify someone, is it? Well, it's up to you. If you want to tell us, that's fine. But we're going to look at our middle names.
Okay, so yours is Tristan.
It is. Which I know is quite Wagnerian, Celtic origin. Ooh. Tumult.
Of Arthurian legend.
Yeah, I like that. I was a Knight of the Round Table.
The tragic hero of
the Knights of the Round Table. Ah, Andrew. Yes, Saint Andrew.
Given name of Welsh origin, that's probably where yours actually comes from. Because you have some Welsh family, don't you?
I do. Yeah, it's quite possible that was part of it. But I do know that my mother was really liked Wagner and that whole Arthurian legend stuff and Knight of the Round Table. I suppose that's not far away from Wales,
sad
is it? It's just across
or
the Bristol
sorrowful.
Channel. So I'm a sad little one.
You're little sad.
I'm a humble, sad, sorrowful.
Let's see the etymology of Brill.
I think for some reason I'm feeling like, I mean, I know that that's a fish, but I'm thinking it's got something to do with a cow in German, isn't it?
I think
it's a kind of flatfish, but
of unknown origin. I think I read somewhere that it was rumoured to be something to do with people from a field.
All right.
A particular sort of name for a field.
That's pretty Scottish. I'm not gonna read that out because it would identify your full name. But yeah, that is pretty damn Scottish. That's about as Scottish as you can get, isn't it?
Yeah. Aside from Angus McDougall face.
Boaty McBoatfish.
Scott
random, sorry.
Scott face. Fairly uncommon family name, most seen in the Dutch language. There's a Paul Brill. There's an artist, Paul Brill.
Oh,
like
16th century Flemish landscape painter.
People with the surname Brill include. And
there's also
these are famous Brills, and one of them is you.
My brother is apparently an American football player, but there is a Paul Brill.
Well, that's going to identify him. There's only one.
Go down and there is politician, scientist. There is a song. Here we go. American composer, songwriter, and producer. I'm an American composer, songwriter, and producer. So chances are, if I actually did develop my musical career
they're still
here,
alive.
Yeah, they've got a website and everything. You go to paulbrill.com.
So you have been able to.
I would have to use a different name if I went international and if I started writing albums and stuff.
Doesn't seem to have the etymology here. The looks of it has unknown origin.
Anyway, Theoden Lysander.
Yes, my middle name is Lysander, but I already
No,
know
it's-
the etymology from that.
Well, obviously I know
'Cause,
where the inspiration for it came from, but I'd be interested to find out.
Well, it's from Midsummer Night's Dream,
Indeed.
and it's the opposite to Alexander, Conqueror, Liberator, I believe. It would be helpful to look at Etym online.
Literally releasing men.
Yeah, Liberator.
Alright, okay. That wasn't what I'd read into the releasing men part.
Yeah, because
You're a man releaser.
line, to release, unfasten, and andros, meaning man.
Okay.
Which is weird that androgynous means, like, agendered.
Well, I think we should be...
Angus McHaggis. Interesting. Anyway, I think that's...
We've probably exhausted the podcast audience, whether or not we're going to
I mean,
stick
with
around for the stream.
other topics, there's a lot more to talk about with this.
I would say we've probably...
Yeah, we've probably gone quite to depth with it.
Well, no, I would... Well, on the subject of language, without actually delving into a specific thing too much, I think we've just kind of scratched the surface of etymology, haven't we? That's the sort of thing that, if you're interested in it...
A few interesting things, though. Because I have some interesting things, because I watched Name Explain and no shit.
Do you?
Yeah. Why Austria and Australia have similar names?
Why?
Because that always confuses people for some reason, because people don't seem to notice the difference between Raelia and Ria.
Is Australis not southern?
Yeah, because the Germans would have named Austria as south of them.
Right.
And Terra Australis was always sort of a theorised continent before people actually discovered it, which came to Australia. It actually means southern wind, I believe.
Yeah, the only reason I know that is because of the Aurora Australis, is it?
Yeah.
Is the southern lights. So presumably boreal or borealis is northern.
Well, yeah, like you get boreal forests.
Right, which are Scandinavian typically?
Yeah, a part of the Arctic Circle, really.
Right, yeah. Cool. Actually,
Also,
that never ceases to amaze me. It's not really related, but when you look at the map of how far north the UK is,
yeah,
it's like the only reason we're as warm as we are is because of the jet stream, basically, isn't it?
New York's level with Lisbon, actually.
Yeah, yeah. But they get pretty fucking cold weather in the winter.
Yeah, but
they don't have the jet stream. So.
You don't find that sort of snow in Spain.
Yeah,
very often.
Not very often, yeah.
Oh, well, Portugal in that case.
So we kind of do rely on that kind of conveyor belt of heat across the Atlantic, don't we?
Yeah, otherwise Scotland would look a bit like Beyond the Wall.
Yeah. Which I think it did one year when I've been up here. I've been up here about 17 years, and there was one year that I thought, yeah, this is a proper winter.
2010.
2007, was it? Or 2010, I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I remember our nan was up and she got stuck
here. Yeah, she couldn't fly back.
Oh no, I have to stay longer.
She stressed for about a couple of hours, and I was like, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You may as well just enjoy yourself and relax for a day or two until the flights start again, because what are you going to do? So, yeah, Austria. So, what else? You're saying about names. You watch a lot of name channel things.
You know what? I'll just go to Name Explain, because they cover on most of the interesting things. Name Explain. I'll show you one of the videos.
Okay.
Also, why all the Stan countries, where there's...
Oh, yeah.
It basically means homeland.
Similar kind of thing. There's
it's a bit
lot
like land.
There's a lot of invers here. isn't it? Inverary, Inverness, Invergordon, Inverkeithing, and I think
Inver's quite a Scottish thing.
There's is that not? I'm trying to think if one of them means mouth and one of them means bridge. I think Inver is
Prefix.
which is the one that's bridge?
List of generic forms and place names in Ireland and United Kingdom. That's a fun
No, Aber.
article. Aber means mouth,
Mouth,
river
yeah.
confluence meeting of
So
river.
Inver must be bridge.
Like Aberdeen, the meeting of D and the Don. Sort of a
Yeah.
go between.
So Inver is presumably bridge, I think. Is it? Up.
I know my alphabet.
Inver. Oh no, it's similar.
It
similar thing.
basically means the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
That might actually be tied into Loch Ness, Inverness.
There was something.
Because they are.
else and there was a...
Inverness is near Loch Ness, isn't it?
What? Why is it? That's interesting. The inches in.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
you just give away our location.
Well, anyone who really wants to know can look it up anyway. I'm not. I haven't gone with the anonymizing thing, so.
Any other interesting things? Yeah, this is. Also, I do like that. I think twat's actually on here. Twat.
There was a road in, and our listener from Northampton might know of this village called Wollaston, which is in Northamptonshire, that has a road called Bell End.
There's also the mid.
We're just going to go through humorous place names now.
There's also the midfix and prefix cum.
Yeah. Cockshot cum Petton.
Oh my god. That's the most abortionate fucking thing.
It's the most... I thought you said abortionate. Unfortunate.
If you're going to have cum in your name, don't name it cockshot. Christ's sake.
Shorten cum Hardy. There's a boghead and a windy roar near here as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you could spend fucking hours looking up hilarious place names.
Fucking Welsh, because W's basically
Cumhead.
Cumhead.
Yeah, but it's spelt CWM, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to know what the prefix or suffix for bridge is in Scottish, because I've forgotten. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe I just misunderstood.
I can arrange this by thingy. So bridge.
Pont.
Pont.
Oh, that's more.
Pontypool.
Yeah, that's not so French. Not so French. Not so Scottish. Yeah.
It comes from Latin pond.
Glen is a big one in.
There'll probably be a few more here and there.
In Scotland, isn't there? Isn't it?
What?
Glen is a big one in Scotland. Is that not like a sort of valley, a glen? And Ben as well, that's a mountain.
I don't know.
Well, valley's Welsh. Valleys.
Well, valley's just a normal word.
Yeah, I know, but here they tend to be called glens locally.
There we go.
In Yorkshire, they'd
Chester,
be
Alcaster,
dales.
Camp, Fortification, or Roman origin. A lot of British place names there.
Yeah.
Also, quick interesting thing. If you were going to name the first city on Mars, what would you want it to be?
Okay, the first city on Mars.
Because cities tend to be named after a certain number of things. Because there'll be ones named after people. Like there's quite a few Hamiltons here and there. And I believe there's a Lafayette in America.
The first city on Mars. I would think
I've heard a suggestion, Curiosity, or New Curiosity, because that's the rover there right now.
Oh yeah, that would be good, yeah.
And also it's just a quite cool name.
Yeah.
Or it might be named after the first person that steps onto Mars.
Maybe.
Could you imagine if we made a city on the moon and it was called Armstrong? Actually,
That wouldn't be that bad, actually. I can imagine that.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds quite a city
But
name.
it's a bit worrying that the first thing I think is Louis Armstrong when you say that.
Is it?
Yeah. But then I'm a trumpet player, so...
Yeah.
Don't do that, you... Nobody in the cantina plays a trumpet.
Yeah, well, they don't play real instruments, do they?
I think you...
What instruments are they playing then?
I don't know, one of them looks a bit like a kind of... they look like sort of oboe clarinet type things.
Yeah, but they don't sound like oboe clarinet type things.
No. But it's not really... There's cookies over there. I want a cookie.
You're so...
I want a cookie. I'm still waiting for my cookie. And I'm thirsty.
Have you got a ADHD?
Why are you selling one?
Oh my god. Anyway.
Squirrel!
That's a bit generalising of you.
What?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, is that the dog's name?
No, fuck's sake. No, I'm just talking about generalising of people with ADHD. But
I see. Sorry, I forgot you said that.
Yeah, clearly you have. Ost also means east in some languages.
Does it?
But then in that version, Ost is actually south. And I suppose that maybe...
So I wonder if there's any connection with the word austere.
I shall look it up. We just think of a word and then just go, that etymology. Etymology. Coming from severe Greek.
Okay.
Right.
So... That's interesting then. I wonder if the Greeks thought of southern...
No, because the Australis would come from Latin.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, there must have been some...
That gets transferred into Latin because they took a lot of things over from conquering Greece.
Yeah.
But then it's sort of Austrus and Australis are different.
Hmm. Interesting.
Anyway.
Don't you think it's strange how the word nowhere is made of the two words now and here?
I don't know. I always find no one an annoying word. Because I'm never sure if it should technically be one word. Because it looks really stupid. Or is it hyphenated? It looks really fucking stupid if you just have noon.
Yeah, is it hyphenated?
With 2 O's and an E.
It might be hyphenated.
Yeah, it's either got a space in it or a hyphen. Grammarly, they'll have something.
The correct way is as 2 words. Yeah.
It's right. Hyphenated is uncommon, but
I had been taught, and I don't know if this is true because there are various incorrect teachings around, but cannot is. I've been taught that that's not actually a word. When I was at school, I was taught at school that cannot was not a single word.
It can be separate, it can be...
Well, I think that's in the same category as that whole idea about split infinitives being wrong. I think it is a traditionalist thing, and it's tied with that thing of preserving language, in that there may have been a time when it wasn't right, but...
Although, you know when people say literally instead of figuratively?
Yeah.
Apparently, you can find that in Jane Austen's work.
All right.
Like, old writers did it all the time, so if people are complaining that language is getting eroded, it was eroded a long time ago. Also, acronyms for very simple phrases annoy me. Like, LOL.
Well, the only problem with that one is that nobody's entirely sure which one you're referring to. Is it lots of love or laugh out loud?
It never should mean lots of love.
No, but it has done.
It's like Oh, my nan just died. Oh,
Lol.
I hope you deal with it. Lol.
Ruffle mayo.
I think it was Matt. Do you remember Matt Kirchen?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. He's brilliant.
left your keys on the windowsill. Ha ha ha. Hope you have a safe flight. Ha ha.
That's something that's probably changed during my lifetime as well. Is that there's a general there is a view that emojis are.
I'm fine with those things.
You tell me off for interrupting you.
Sorry. I'm fine with.
But carry on anyway.
I'm fine with LOL and OMG being used in text form, but when people say it out loud, it's just like, why?
Yeah. There's a place. The thing with emojis, which were originally called emoticons, I took a Open University module on, I can't remember what it was. It was something to do with technology of the internet or something. It was internet technologies, something or other. Anyway, back in the early 2000s, first half of the 2000s.
Right.
And it was actually taught in the netiquette section of that, that emojis they weren't technically always translated into pictorial emojis. They were like colon, close bracket for a smiler.
Yeah.
But they were advocated as an important way of communicating the emotions behind a statement, because you can't do that with just, what I was saying about intonation and body language and stuff. You can't do that with writing.
One that always confuses me, XD. What the fuck is that supposed to be?
I always thought that X was just a kiss, but
yeah, but XD.
I think D is like a big smile, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's like sort of dead-eyed Cyclops smiling.
Don't know.
I think it's something that's usually done after something kind of trolly.
Yeah.
But it's used in loads of different contexts, so I'm not exactly sure.
But then there was kind of a backlash against that. Like, there's sort of certain people that thought emojis were, common and shouldn't be necessary, and you should be able to.
But if every time you spoke you went, oh, just so you know, I'm happy while saying this.
Yeah.
Or just so you know, I have a sarcastic intonation while saying this.
Yeah.
There's I can't remember what it's called, but there's a sort of rule of the internet. I should probably look this up, but I won't. That irony can never really be used, because there'll always be people that actually believe that.
Yeah.
And so some people on the internet will just think that you actually mean that.
Yeah.
Especially when, because I watch a couple of atheist YouTubers, but generally just sort of people that like to critically think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that sort of stuff interesting, and it sort of gets my brain going. Because particularly with that, you'll sometimes ironically go,
I think irony is misunderstood quite often as well as a.
Because I've heard people. Have you heard of flat earthers?
Yeah.
For some reason, recently, people are beginning to for some reason think that there's a flat Earth. I think it might be
flat
growing.
Earthers, I can never quite work out
Yeah.
which of them are being serious and which are just taking the piss out of the ones that are being serious.
Yeah, which is hard to do, because I have met people in real life who have said that, and I'm not quite sure if they're actually joking, because
Yeah, it's not quite. You kind of you can't seriously believe this shit, but
no, but people actually do.
yeah. But then it really does come down to how many people believe that sort of thing, because you and I would probably say a similar thing about religious belief if it weren't for the fact that it's only feasible to me that people do have those beliefs simply because I know there are so many that do, and it's because it's become the norm. But if somebody came out of the blue and said all that the stuff that a religious person believes in out of the blue, and you hadn't heard that before, you'd be like, "What, you really believe that?"
On that note, this is a slight bit of follow-up from other bits of follow-up, but recent poll, I believe, said that only 2% of young people say that they belong to the Church of England. Young people being people 18 to 24, I believe, is the general definition.
It's worrying use of words to me, that anyway.
Anyway, we're back. Sorry, we were arguing a bit there about something, so that's why I just laughed then. But
I'm getting the blame for us looking really bright.
The camera just ran out of
battery,
so that's why there was a slight.
And we hadn't said goodbye yet, so bye.
No, shut up. We were talking about
You're so abusive.
2% of young people saying that they belong to the Church of England.
Well, you were.
Well, we were talking about that.
Yeah, belonged. It's like, what do you mean belonged? They don't own you, do they?
They practically do.
I suppose.
Dictate.
We own your minds.
But also just the fact that so much of British society seems to be governed by the Church of England.
It's changing.
It's like you're not actually allowed to have a non-denominational school that is specifically secular. They have to include some element of collective worship, which is compulsory, at least in England they allow people over 16 to remove themselves from that religious observance, and Wales, because they have similar laws. But in Scotland, people in school just aren't allowed to do that at all. What are you doing?
I'm looking up an article that somebody posted earlier, which is not earlier. I've forgotten her name now. Somebody posted an article that was in the Guardian about a school in England that was basically putting kids in isolation as a punishment.
Yeah.
For like the whole day, basically. For like things like wearing the wrong trousers and stuff to school.
But they had that in some Catholic schools for not engaging in the religious worship part.
Yeah.
And for some people, the nearest school to them is only really a Catholic school.
Yeah.
So unless they want to drive an hour themselves, drive their kids an hour, or send them on the train, then if there is even a train to where they live, then they don't really have a choice.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find it. But yeah, it just seems archaic. I mean, I'm sure somebody else had said, how is that legal that they're putting kids
It's not.
in this? Well, that's the thing, yeah.
But they get away with it because nobody actually checks up on that. Because, I mean, I think religion's generally quite abusive anyway.
Well, I don't think this was related to religion. It was just...
It was.
No,
it was an Ofsted inspection of religious schools.
This article I'm talking about wasn't.
Yes, but in general, we're talking about religious...
No, you are.
No, we were talking about religious schools, so I assumed you were talking about that, because that makes sense to come off of that.
No, I was just talking about schools.
I mean, it's probably religious school, because every fucking school's a religious
Well, it was
school,
an
and they have compulsory religious worship.
It was an academy.
Unless your parents withdraw you from it.
It was an academy.
Whatever.
Don't know what they are.
Whatever. Who gives a shit? I don't know. Well, I suppose the people there do give a shit, and the people with actual consciences do care.
I reckon if somebody wanted to, they could actually take the school or the local authority to the some high court or other, because it's surely
but people don't have money to
rights
do
of the human rights of the child and all that lot.
The UK doesn't implement that. Scotland said that
Scotland's
Scotland's
decided
proposing to
Yeah, they are going
adopt
to be.
that, but
yeah.
it probably won't be that.
Adopting the United Nations Convention on the Human Rights of the Child or something.
But we'll take some human rights that we feel like, oh yeah, that works. But you know, freedom to actual privacy, you know, whatever. Fuck that shit. And kids kids are less protected than animals in a lot of the UK.
Yeah.
Like, if you punch a puppy in England, in Scotland they've now banned smacking. If you punch a puppy, you'd get more legal trouble than punching a child or smacking a child.
In England?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Indeed.
Anyway, have we exhausted the language
I
topic?
think so, yeah.
Have we exhausted ourselves?
I think so, yeah.
So shall we... I think we'll have an outro and then we'll talk to the people on the stream just a little bit longer.
I think so, yeah.
Cool beans. Right. Anything else you want to add on the topic of language?
No.
Cool beans. It's my favourite phrase, cool beans. Because it's sufficiently sarcastic.
Say goodbye to the people.
Anyway, I've been Firebolt.
And I've been the Orbiter.
And this has been episode 20 of Breaking Bollocks Language. Bye.
Au revoir.
Thanks for watching. We'd really appreciate it if you support us on various things, obviously subscribing on YouTube, Twitch, following us on Twitter or Facebook. We have a Discord server that you can join and talk to us and other people, and a website where you can check out blog posts.
And obviously this isn't free for us to run, so if you'd like to support us financially, we have a Patreon page where you can donate monthly and get subscriber rewards. We also have a Stream Elements tipping page where you can make one-off donations. The links are all in the description.
Farewell.
See you next time.
Hang on, I've got ways to say goodbye in other languages.
Aloha.
Yeah, it means hello and goodbye.
Oh, cool.
Adios, aloha, arrivederci, ciao. Auf Wiedersehen.
Shalom.
Au revoir, bon voyage, sayonara, shalom.
Wale.
That's
pronounced Wale in
right.
Latin.
Dotsiens.
Well, depending on who
and
you are.
Zajan. Or
Salve is the greeting one.
Right, cool. Bye.